But as I was sitting in my home in Texas, and I was seeing what was going on in this country. I live in Texas. Yeah, I went down to the border off and on sometimes. Why do our elected officials go down to the border for like an hour to get a sound bite? That's the only reason they go get a sound bite. They start talking how bad it is. I said, why don't you talk to the people there and see what's going on first?
Jesus, take the crudité. We've got a Dr. Oz in our hands. I was sitting in my home in Texas. I live in Texas. Jesus, Beetlejuice is gonna appear. You idiot, you gotta stop saying that you don't live in Georgia. You're supposed to pretend to live in the state that you're running in. You're doing such a terrible job. But it turns out that, yeah, this video, which apparently was recorded earlier this year, his financial records show that while he claims to have had a property in Georgia for many years, it is in fact owned solely by his wife, collected rental income from it for nearly 2 decades, indicating that he has spent many years living not in Georgia, but in Texas, where he has claimed a home as his primary residence for tax purposes. And he's potentially in some legal trouble for that, because if he now claims that, no, that wasn't my main home, I actually lived in Georgia, although God only knows where, then he was committing tax fraud in Texas. But like he keeps talking about how Warnock has forgotten Georgia. Well, Warnock at least lives in Georgia, dude. You've been lying about years and years of this property that you don't own, that you don't live at, that someone else was renting. Those people are probably gonna start talking to the press soon. This is just looking really bad for him. Jared, what do you think?
Again, it's another illustration of his lack of understanding of this whole thing. You could openly say, by the way, he played for the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is this city that's in Texas. He had to live there. But so we all know that, but then he moved on to Georgia because he's from Georgia, because he played college football there too. So if you can openly admit to all this type of stuff, it's kind of the equivalent of seeing, like an artist goes on stage in Toledo and goes, "What's going on, Detroit?" And they're like, "Woo, you're in the wrong city, dummy," right? But a politician can say, "I'm running in a state that I don't live in." Kind of, sort of. I mean, I hope you guys don't catch me on that. Maybe I'm not thinking clearly, but that's like a one-day news cycle of discussion about it. If a rock band does that in some other city, Toledo instead of Detroit, we're talking about that for years. Yeah. But this is literally the way things are supposed to be done. Not just a mistake because this band has been on the road for a month straight, but because you just don't care or don't know how the system works, but don't realize how important that is that you don't know how the system works. And you're trying to represent people in the Senate. These are more indications of what is it you're looking for out of Herschel Walker? Competency, intelligence, knowledge of how this whole thing works? He's not showing any of it. So what are you voting for him to do? Just ask that question. What are you voting for him to do?
To support Trump or something, I don't know. Anyway, great reporting here. Credit to the Daily Beast for finally, at long last, finding something that Herschel Walker successfully pulled out of the state of Georgia. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.